Welcome to Full Throttle Talk, the podcast where horsepower meets conversation. From supercars to classic legends, high revving tech to motorsport mayhem, we cover it all. Straight from the driver's seat, whether you're a gearhead, a racer, or just love the thrill of the open road, you're in the right place. Buckle up, hit the gas, and let's go full throttle into today's episode.
I'm so envious. I'm so envious of you, Dave. I mean, like, this is where I want to be.
I hear you, buddy. Check
Like,
it out, though. This is killer. We're having a blast so far.
Gosh.
My guys are excited to be on the podcast here.
No, Dave. Hey, you know what? We could just totally redo the podcast. You could walk around and introduce all your rally buddies.
I probably can. Here we go. Here's Frankie and Jaime right here. Here we are, gentlemen. Get in the cast. Get in the cast. Here we are.
Tell them they're on
Jaime
Full
and
Throttle
Frankie. Yes. Yes, we're through. Well, we have definitely been doing some full throttle talk. And Frankie, is your butt cheeks still good there after that little spin you just had?
Uh-oh.
That was good.
What?
It was good.
Photos,
little wet leaves,
video,
little wet leaves stuff, just a little bit of wet leaves, nothing big, nothing, no problem. It was good. Everybody's good. We're doing a little bit of mechanical pickup here. I won't keep everybody here too long, but we got Shad and Santi, and here we have Kevin is trying to make sure that his wheels are still on his vehicle. There we are.
So this is
David,
Targa Carolina, right? Carolina, Dave?
Targa Carolina. We've probably got 125 cars, I think, something like that.
Wow,
that's incredible.
We're
broken into a bunch of different groups, and we're running some amazing back roads out here in North Carolina, up in the mountains. The day, as you can see from the sunshine, is absolutely glorious. And we got a cool killer group of cars in this group. I happen to be designated the leader of this particular run pack. And we're going to have probably another one go zooming by us here in a minute since we just pulled over. But the day is fantastic. And I just wanted to make sure I joined you guys for a minute at least to tell you how cool this is. So
awesome.
Well, Dave, I'm super stoked that I'm wearing a black quarter zip too.
Yeah, there you go. I got a Thunderworks t-shirt on underneath here, of course.
That is weird.
We've already had.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. We've already had one incident with a Camaro. I think a leader of another group may have gotten pulled over already.
You guys
Camaro,
call them Camaros too, the cops?
Yeah, I think that became the universal, Paul. I think we probably picked it up from you guys out there. Charles Stanley always says that's the only reason we'd ever be saying the word Camaro. So it's a good signal to the team if there's cops ahead.
That was a hill country rally thing. And the funny thing is I was on a rally with a vintage Camaro and it just freaked him out every time we got on the radio. So, but I assume in a Porsche only rally, you don't have to worry about that.
Well, no, we don't, but we got turbo. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tim.
No, you're fine. By the way, you are listening to Full Throttle Talk, and we are, all over the world right now. I'm in the Caribbean. Paul's in California. Casey, are you in the Maryland, D.C. area today?
I am. Yep.
And Dave is driving around in Appalachia and on some of the best driving roads in the world. And so what we're going to be focusing on, and Dave's going to stay with us as long as he can and get back to enjoying his drive, is we're focusing on what did you do in cars this week, automotive news. We're going to be talking about limited editions or numbered cars. We're going to be talking about cars that won't go up in value that people think are collectible, which I think is going to be a fun segment. And we're going to talk, I did this one specifically for Paul, is Corvette the New McLaren, his two favorite cars. He's super pumped up about it.
We'll just get right through that category as fast as possible.
I know what you're going to do. And then
you guys jump in. You keep going. I'm going to jump out. I appreciate everybody and have fun. We got to get back on the road.
Hey, I'll
see you this weekend, Dave.
Safe drive.
Julie and I'll see you at Love.
Okay, we'll see
in a few days. See ya.
You got it. Thanks, Tim. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. And then we're going to talk about Oldtimers and Youngtimers, this or that, and then get to any listener questions as Dave signs off. There he is.
Wow.
I think
it's a great angle.
Yeah,
there.
It's so
just leave them there. And then we can just put little bubble talk and just throw in answers for him.
No, we are going to leave it there. He doesn't know how to shut off his Zoom off on his phone, but that's fine.
That is hilarious.
All right. So, guys, I want to let you know ahead of time that I have prepared, and per Casey's suggestion, I'm not going to be giving you, oh, I saw you peeking. The pop quiz questions. And I actually spent a lot of time on trying to figure out some tough ones that you guys will definitely stumble over. Knowing that I'm dealing with some Porsche experts, we'll see how expert you guys actually are. So get
Mm.
ready. All right. So let's start out by what did you do in cars this week? Casey, you had some unbelievably cool pictures that you were posting. I have lots of questions, but what's your response?
So I wanted to get into two different things. Number one, lots of 964 prep to make the drive down to Loof this weekend. I got a lot of messages from listeners on uh, on Instagram about saying, "Hey, how's the 964 coming along?" All that stuff. I've just been focusing on making sure it's road ready. I bought a charger for the cigarette lighter because I realized I didn't have one of those, and then every one that I got stuck out of the dashboard too far that it was like falling out. So I bought a $90 specific one from England that should be here. That's the correct depth, and honestly, it has a cap over the top of it. I'll do a product review next week of that. I can't believe I spent $90 on a cigarette lighter insert, but I'm gonna have the car for a really long
What it-
time, so it is what it is.
is this to go? What is it to charge?
USB-C and
Okay,
USB-A.
for your phone and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I figured with a couple of us traveling, it probably made sense. I've got a little USB input for the Blaupunk Frankfurt radio that's in it, that doesn't really charge things that quickly. And I figured if we're going to be in the car that long, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Other thing that I wanted to touch base on is I am rarely excited and surprised by cars. I drive stuff all the time that just kind of I get used to it. I get used to expensive things that I figure in my mindset are going to be expensive and nice, so it's not a surprise. But I did principal photography the other day with my photographer on this beautiful 1967 4.2 liter XKE. And I will tell you that I have never been more surprised at a car.
Is that a what year is it?
The 67, so it's the end of the Series 1 with the glassed over headlights. I was so surprised that after I finished photography, my photographer and the owner and I went out to dinner, and I called my dad up on the phone, who we've talked about before, has a TR3, and I said, "Dad," I was like, "you will not believe how impressed I was with an XKE." And he used to say, "Yeah, my buddy Bird and I used to swap days back and forth. We'd drive back and forth to the city, and either in his 60, I think it was a 66 XKE that was yellow. They do that one day and then take my dad's 60 Corvette the other day." So he's like, "This is just normal stuff for us." And I was like, I couldn't believe how well the car drove, how well it tracked. It felt like a car that was 15 years newer. It's kind of like when I drive my 914 compared to my dad's TR3, where it feels decades newer, even though it kind of is decades newer, but it felt so far in the future. And it was an amazing experience. I was blown away. I will absolutely own an XKE someday. No
So
question in my mind.
speaking of XKs, Casey, did you get a chance to watch the recent Goodwood revival videos? Because there is a, I don't know if you saw it, Tim, the XKE. It was basically the Jag XKEs and the Cobras. And just watching that battle with rain, it was the most intense race. But the one thing you learn about the Jaguars is they were kind of like what 911 did to everyone else for the 60s. I mean, they just blew everyone away. They were not just good looking, but they handled really well. My only issue with them is they are a tight cabin for kind of a long cigarette looking car. It's just like the steering wheel's like just right there. But pretty cool
I
cars.
loved it. I loved it. I thought it was great. Tim, do you have experience?
I do. I have experience with a lot of old Jags. When I had my detailing business, the guy named Jack Rosselli used to buy and restore not just XKEs, but the older ones, the 120s and the 140s and all the rest of it. So I've driven all those as well. And I agree completely. And the difference when you're driving in any old car that's been restored maybe more than once is it really is the experience is dependent on whoever restored it last. Because if, that just is you're driving somebody's interpretation of what it was supposed to feel like, unless you're really working with someone that's top drawer, as far as the restoration plays.
Yep.
Sure. So this car was restored about 35 years ago.
Wow.
The paint is still in excellent shape. But mechanically, it is a sub 30,000 mile car. So it is a lot of the underpinnings. I did a whole lot of video and photos underneath. It's very original, and I've got a Mark expert coming out on Monday to do some further inspections with me to make sure that everything's right.
Well, so to be clear, you're putting this one for sale on behalf of one of your clients on Bring a Trailer, correct?
It's either going to go on Bring a Trailer or another auction site. The client and I are still discussing.
Okay. And listeners, if you guys, I mean, you hopefully you understand that all three of the guys, Dave being the third, are in the car business. And Casey's a rep for Bring a Trailer. So if you have any Bring a Trailer potential cars in that region or really any place in the country, definitely look Casey up. His contacts are down below. If you want to Instagram any of these guys, Casey, I think that we put your Instagram and whatnot in the description. If not, just send it over to Ann and she'll put it in there.
Of
You
course.
definitely should. All right, cool. So Kramer.
Yeah, I went to a couple. I went to a couple cars and coffee, which for me is not easy getting out, especially since Sunday I had to sneak out and use Uber transportation, which is unusual. And there's a group of us that meet down in Lido, and we've talked about this before. And it was started by my friend Andreas, who basically him and four dads who had newborns. It was the only time they could get out was like 6 in the morning on Sunday, and now it's grown to be a pretty cool thing. And then there's a lot of late model Porsches, but every once in a while you'll pick up kind of like some cool stuff. Nice 348 TS. This guy's just trying to get his coffee in, but you can see kind of the cars there. A lot of Porsches, but this one was kind of it really messed with me, and I didn't get to talk to the owner. I had seen it on Saturday at Cars and Coffee, and then I saw it again. So it is a Gembala body kit, and it's confusing because it's got Tech Art wheels, which someone said he had just put on, but it is a 4S Cabriolet. And I don't know if this was built in period. It was definitely a wide body. It looked very, very nicely done, like a can red interior. It was one of those things that I normally would really like hate, for all the reasons I think Tim's grimacing about it, because it just seems sacrilegious. But if it was done in period, it kind of sort of like how the slant nose conversions in period done right sort of exemplified it, or like when you see BMW Hartkeys and Schnitzers and things like that. And Gembala is a reputable company, so that was one. And then the other one that just kind of, I would say, irritated me more than anything. This is called Project 6. It is starts off as an 80s Carrera that is then supercharged. The engine's done by BBI, I think, or Pink. It's one of those cars that it feels like someone is writing the very last threads of the coattails of Singer. Like there's just one like we can get in one more shitty, cheesy Restomod. The build quality is, if you go to their website, much more complimentary than what I saw in person. And I guess I don't know what they're asking for them. It just seems like something that's been whipped together just to sell yet another Restomod, which I am at the point where I think Porsche Restomods have definitely jumped the shark. And I'm just kind of getting over it. I think we're now at the point where I would just like to see go back to the old school days. And Tim, you'd probably agree with this, is sleepers. I love a car that looks totally stock, like an
Paul,
80s.
you realize how much in conflict what you liked and what now you are claiming you dislike are. Because what you're just doing is you're basically disliking the thing that the grumpy Paul 30 years from now is going to like you are basically waxing poetic about. It's Hartga, by the way, not Hartge. And you are basically you're talking. I know you're talking about Alpina and Hartge and Gambella and all the rest of it. You get it? That's kind of a disconnect.
Yes. But I could be contradictory if you give me decades in between to do it. And by the way, wax poetic, one for you made it in like 10 minutes. Awesome.
Three is my goal per show.
Three per show. But
I
anyway,
love the color.
That's
the
what
color's
I did.
great. It's jade green.
It's jade green, but like I said, I don't. This was, I think, far more interesting, and I wish I could have
agreed.
Learn more, because
I'm surprised you like that for a whole bunch of reasons, but all the reasons that you stated aren't the reasons that I'm surprised you liked it. I'm surprised you liked it because it's convertible. A cabriolet.
I didn't like it to own. What I liked about it, and Casey can appreciate it, when you got really close to it, like you get close to this car, you're like, oh, that is one Band-Aid on top of another Band-Aid, and it just looked cobbled together. But when you got close to this car, it would looked so close to factory. Like I peeled up the little edges here, on the tonneau cover just to see how that looks, because that's where you could hide stuff. It looked just like a 993 cab. Really, really well done.
So the
So I just
question is,
appreciate that.
what did that start as? Did it start as a C2 that they widened, or did it start as a C4? I
I
mean,
think they started as a 993 C4S, and I mean they did like this part here, no fiberglass, all steel. It looks like Turbo S flares, and then I mean I wasn't a huge fan of these like vents down at the bottom, and I wish I would have taken a picture of the front. Um, but anyway, it was
I like the, is that a 914 in the reflection?
um, in the oh no, oh Tim, you would have liked. I should have put a picture. It was a 67 short wheelbase 911 Bahama yellow
Oh yeah.
with all the like this person bought like the whole rally catalog from 67. I mean, it had
Awesome.
the old rally timers on there, not just the clocks, but the old school I forgot what the name of that Halda rally timers. It had the most interesting two spokes rally steering wheel from the 60s. Which two spoke steering wheels usually look like crap, but it's well, like I said, it's a cars and coffee that, I mean, these are kind of growing on me. I know they're kind of not great cars, but this was so clean. It just looked
Hold on.
nice.
For those of you guys who are listening, Mr. I don't like Ferraris and Corvettes and don't deny it, is now basically putting up a picture of a 348, which is arguably the least desirable. And I had a 348, by the way, arguably the least desirable of all the, let's just say, modernish, post Enzo cars.
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, my favorite ones are a 400i or a Mondial. And I know that those are both I have a affinity to pick out the shittiest Ferraris. Um, but I think Ferraris have to get to be 25 years old for me to actually find interest, but still not enough interest to actually own. So,
So I'll share with you something that I learned just this morning. So there's a lot of controversy over the new Ferrari Testarossa 849. People seem to either, like it or dislike the design of it. And then all these guys our age essentially are saying, why didn't you bring back the Strakes from the 1980s? They don't know the history of the Ferrari Testarossa, which, basically is it's about the valve cover. It's not necessarily about the Strakes and all the rest of it. Their history goes back to 1986 and not before that. Anyway, so Ferrari had to put those Strakes on because the opening in order to comply with DOT standards and for the intakes on the side were evidently too large. And so they had to put the Strakes on there to keep, small children and
well,
dogs
children.
being sucked in. Yeah. So it was like an oh shit design theme. And so if that's true, I think that's
But
fast.
I'll bet you that wasn't for us in the US. I'll bet you that was like a German law. That was a European law. I mean,
Probably.
think about it. We have no pedestrian standards here in the US. I mean, the Tesla truck is proof positive that we don't care what the car hits. But I think that was probably more of a German to sell the cars in Europe or Germany.
Have you actually ever studied that past the pedestrian laws with regards to front end design? Have you, Casey? Do you guys know
No.
anything about that?
I've not, no.
I did just because I was sort of interested in it. So it's designed to basically the front nose has to be somewhat collapsible, but it's designed to throw you on the hood. So when you see some
Ah,
of these designs, they're supposed to basically have the pedestrian be tossed on the hood, so
right.
then they won't be,
They won't go underneath the car
or remove.
or
Yeah,
just
Or
get,
yeah.
remove
center punch.
appendages. Yes.
Yeah.
So here, my week in cars, I got back on my simulator, and I know you guys aren't sim fans, but I did hear something I thought was really fascinating. Casey will appreciate this. Paul, you're just gonna have to sit tight. So, did you see, Casey, that Verstappen won in Nürburgring on a Ferrari? Here, very
By
well,
by a lot.
by a lot in his
Yeah.
freaking first race. And did you hear who his co-driver was? Did you? How much did you study all this?
I did not.
It was a sim guy. So his sim guy. What we're seeing is we're seeing essentially the transference of sim racing skill set to actually real racing. And that's pretty incredible. And it's fascinating to me anyway, when Verstappen came on the scene in Formula One, people like, Sir Lewis Hamilton were like, I don't want to sim race. I have, Mercedes has got somebody who does the sim, I don't want to practice on the sim. We have somebody else that we hired, so I don't have to do it. Just a sort of bizarre mindset about being on a simulator. And then Verstappen is so addicted to sim racing, and he uses a similar rig to what I have. He uses a similar software, similar brake pedals, the whole thing. And he wins everywhere, and he knows all the tracks. I think what we're going to see is something different about essentially sim racing being taken more seriously, because we're able to see that skill set does transfer. And
I think we'll talk about it later, but it's generational. I mean, Verstappen's considerably younger than, how old's Max Verstappen? 30?
I don't think
probably less, 27, 20.
Yeah, so we'll get into that part of this later, but video games are generational, especially video games that actually do simulate actual driving. So interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, not to be a defender of simulators, but it's not a video game. I mean, in essence, it's really not that kind
Sure.
of. You're right. All right, so we're having
and just really quick on simulators. I was listening to a podcast, and he's a older gentleman, famous instructor. It was on the podcast with Sam Smith. It's not the car.
Great podcast.
Yeah, a really good podcast. It's Ross. He wrote the book Speed Secrets and Training. He gets hired a lot for that, but a well-known racer. He runs a school at the Nürburgring like once every year, like a 2-day school. And he says there's like 20 weeks of prep beforehand where he's sending all the participants like, hey, watch this, do this. And he says specifically, you need to be on some level of sim, because you got 2 days at the course. And if you don't do the sim, he says the people who are on the sims, by lap 2 of the first day, they are smiles and they get it because they've been doing the sim. And if you didn't do any sims, by time it takes a full day just to acclimate and then have fun. You've wasted half your trip.
Well,
so he's into sims. There you go.
Since you guys are showing some interest in this, I'll just nerd out on you just a smidge. So when we were speccing our sim, we got it from Lando Norris's brother, Oliver Norris. Cool Performance. I'd love for them to be a sponsor, but they're not. Anyway, so I was asking Oliver, which is Lando's brother, why don't you have movement on your sim? And so I'm curious what you guys think. So why do you think, I'll just even set it up even more distinctly, why do you think professional drivers like Max don't have sims that move?
My guess is that it's not going to move enough close to what reality is. So why distort it? And then they just want to learn the track. They just want to learn elevation, turn in, apex. I mean, that's my guess.
So
I would agree.
Okay, so you guys are really close. The reason is because the simulator cannot simulate the actual movements. And so what happens is there's a tiny little gap. And if your brain is learning like Mid-Ohio Sports Car Track, where I was over the weekend, if your brain is on Mid-Ohio Sports Car Track, and then you're actually going to race it in real life, if it's not 1-for-1, you've actually programmed your brain around an incorrect data set for being competitive on the track, and it'll completely screw up everything you do, and you have to relearn it all. But in order to relearn it all, you have to forget what you thought you already knew. That's why. And so evidently there's no movement simulator that the professional drivers ever want to use for that reason. So I thought that was fascinating. Okay, so are we doing what are you wearing in watches this week?
Yeah.
You just took the picture. Why not? Let's go.
Oh man, give me a minute.
Yeah, and actually this too bad Dave's not here, because what he wore last week, and then this picture I thought would be a little better, was basically the new version of this. And I'm not one of those weirdos who's got to get the year of my birth, but when I bought the watch, Seiko's really easy to decode when it was made. This is called a Seiko Sport. I can't remember. It was basically made 4 days before I was born, the end of March 1969. And it's just, I liked it because it reminds me of the Speedmaster Tintin. I think Casey's a Speedmaster fan, and it's called the Rally Timer. It was like the really high quality of the inexpensive, like the most expensive of the inexpensive brands before you jumped into Rolex or Omega. I forgot what they were new, probably.
I want to point something out. Casey, do you notice how Paul wanted to talk about what are you wearing in watches this week when I told him there was a quiz coming? Did you notice that?
I don't, because this was absolutely not part of the plan at all. So I had to go find one. So luckily I'm in the room where watches are kept.
Awesome.
Casey,
What are
do
you wearing,
have?
Tim?
I'm Submariner from last week.
Uh,
I broke out the my Speedmaster. This watch is special to me because I like watches that are part of history. I like things that defined an era, and to me, the classic Speedmaster look is important. As I've discussed before, I think Speedmasters should come with Hesalite crystals on them because I do believe that the way that it was taken to the moon should be the way that it's represented. I'm not a big fan of the sapphire sandwich that they come with them. And I think I'm also going to wear this. I was going to wear this or my Seiko to Luft this weekend. I'm not sure, but I'll probably wear the Speedmaster because I've not worn it in a bit. Normally, anytime I go anywhere near water, I wear my kind of homemade Seiko, and I'll talk about that one next week.
All right, ready for the quiz? First
Bring
quiz.
it.
Here we go. All right, Porsche famously engineered. I'm going to keep the first question, should be easy. Porsche famously engineered the door thunk of the 911 to sound perfect. Which of these did Porsche engineers reportedly compare it to during development? Option A, a cathedral bell. Option B, choice B, a bank vault closing. Option C, a champagne cork popping. Could be. You don't know. You never know. Look at you guys. You're thinking, no, Kramer. I see your fingers moving. You cannot chat GPT this. All right. No, I'm not worried about Casey. I know Paul's going to Google it.
I would say option
No,
A.
I'm not done. I'm not done yet. Or a
Okay.
guitar power chord. And Casey, you get to go first since he rudely jumped in on there.
You know, I always think it sounds like opening like a really fresh beer on a wonderful day, like in a can. But I can almost guarantee that that's not the answer. We always likened it to a bank vault. I'll say bank vault.
Don't you think it's ironic that you worked at a car dealership and you related the sound of a 911 door opening to a bank vault? I
Well,
mean,
that 911, old 911s, not necessarily new 911s, but when they had the trim like an SC, anything up through 993, they all sounded good. Once you got up to water cooled cars, when they lost the framing around the top, they didn't sound that great. But I still think G Wagons probably have better door closing sound than 911s, but it's super close.
you guys are both right. Damn it.
I mean, the thing for me is you're talking about opening or closing. It's closing, right? That bing when you
Yeah.
close it, correct?
Or opening. Yeah. I mean,
I mean, I always thought, I mean, part of it is just they know they get the door on right. And for whatever reason, I thought I remember reading something about like a tuning fork or some kind of like something that was more of an auditory musical thing. And that's why I said that the church bells or whatever.
I mean, don't you think, honestly, of all the USPs, if you want to call it that, of the old 911s in particular, that is absolutely the most enthralling because it's such a unique experience. The shape is different, all the things are different, and then when you just pull on that metal handle and you hear these mechanical things working, what other old cars sound like that?
Old Mercedes, I
That's
think,
true.
are pretty close. I would say that and the key on the left, kind of like Saabs have the key in the
Yeah.
center console. I would say key on the left for so long with the air cooled, which is funny because then when they went to water cooled 924s, 944s, all that, they went to the traditional one, which I always wondered why they give up on their history on that one. Might be an Audi thing, who knows? So what was the answer? Was it all
You
those
got it right.
answers?
You guys got it right. Bank vault.
Thank you. Oh, Casey got it right. I was chimes or musical.
Oh, okay. Case. So we're gonna keep score today. And of course, I
Yeah.
got it right too, but I came up with the question, so I can't use that. All right, let's move on to segment 2, automotive news. Casey, what in automotive news caught? Ooh, this is a good, very good. I was going to talk about that as well. So let's roll in. Automotive news that caught your attention, Casey.
So I remember when in 2009, when Porsche debuted, actually 2009 when Porsche updated to PCM 3.1, and that was the first year that they put touchscreen radios in cars. And before then, Porsche was like, we don't want to do touch screens because the screens get dirty, and it's all this rigmarole. So as the era has progressed, we got more and screens and more screens and more screens. And then the other day, Porsche announced that the new Cayenne is going to have screens everywhere. It's going to have a bent screen in the middle. It's going to have a big screen in front of the passenger, a big screen in front of the driver. And when this news came out, I was sitting in a 997 GT2 RS. I was waiting for the car to come up to temperature. I just turned on Instagram and it popped up. And I literally looked in front of me and I saw those perfect gauges. I saw the red rim of the top of the steering wheel. And I was just sitting there and I was like, this is not a selling point to me. And then I realized at that moment that I am no longer the enthusiast is not the target market for Porsche, which is perfectly fine because there are going to be people that are going to love this. They love screens. They love the fact that you can watch YouTube in the passenger seat, all this stuff. They're going to love it. It's not for me. I specifically did not buy, I bought my S4 versus A6 All Road because I wanted actual buttons to control HVAC controls. I did not want a screen. That was the key reason why I bought my S4 versus the A6. And screens just aren't for me. And unfortunately, it's the way it's going to go.
Well, I put this to you guys in WhatsApp. I mean, how long ago was it that the Germans, I think it was Porsche, refused to put a flipping cup holder in the car? And they said when it was Porsche, right? And they
It
said
was.
I can't do a German accent for shit, but when you're driving, you do not drink,
Yeah.
or something, right?
Well,
And,
they were
and
always fascinated with the fact that we like to consume food and beverages. I mean, there's no drive-throughs in
but now
Germany.
look at the interior. Now I mean, I'm not as far as design goes, it's pretty freaking crazy. But that is just nothing but driver distraction. I just completely and totally, when I saw that, I thought my half my brain said, well, that looks really cool. But the other half said, I hate it. And furthermore, how the hell is that going to age? Who cares, right? It's a throwaway car.
Throwaway car.
That's what
Well,
people are
It's
saying.
a three-year lease.
That's right.
well,
That's it. It's a 3-year lease from this.
Sorry, 39-month lease. That's always a sweet spot.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's
well,
just it kind of breaks my heart. I mean, I'm just interpreting what Casey said, and I agree. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, as I say, just like we mentioned in WhatsApp, if these cars are actually built in Tennessee and they really lean in, now they're day to day seeing who their actual buying customers, they're going to have a thing for Waffle House waffles to be held in the car while you're driving. You can have your bone-in chicken from Hardee's just
They're going to have
in
the
the center
smothered and covered
console.
edition.
Yeah.
Oh,
Smothered and covered it. And this is just a kind of a weird story. A long time ago in another career, I had a client. He was in the Mid Atlantic in Richmond, Virginia, and I would go and we did playgrounds and interiors for fast food restaurants. And Burger King was one of his big clients. And I'd spend all day going from one Burger King to another. And he would in the morning stop and get like the Burger King waffle French toast sticks. And in his Nissan Sentra that he was putting 20,000 a miles a month on, he would have this like a gimbal that would keep the syrup on the steering wheel in a cradle. So when you were turning, you could go like maybe 90 degrees of turning, it would stay level. And he had another one to hold his French toast sticks, and he would just dip them as he's driving along.
you
That's
should
the
patent
most
that.
that's the most American thing I've ever heard.
It's so white trash.
You should patent that and sell it to Porsche. I mean, honestly, they'll be all over
Put it
it.
in the
Dude, look, they could put stitching on it. They could make it out of carbon fiber, sell it as an option, whatever. All right, let's move on.
co-brand with one of the fast food joints.
And by the way, we have an upcoming question about what percent of the cars that Porsche sells in the pop quiz. Oh, I'm not going to tell you. You guys will go and Google it when I'm not looking. All right, Paul, Willow Springs Raceway. Why did that catch your eye as your
Well,
automotive topic?
it's Willow Springs, and I'm sure Tim, you've been on Willow Springs Raceway.
I
I don't
haven't
know,
actually, and
you
except
never
in my
have.
sim. Nope, except in my sim.
Wow, it is just an iconic racetrack. I've probably done 1,000 laps on it. It's where you first go to learn to drive. It's an hour and 15 minutes outside of LA. It's where so much production. I mean, it's the oldest racetrack in the US. You go, dedicated racetrack. Herbie films were filmed there, Ford versus Ferrari recently. And it has been just dying on the vine. We've been watching it. The same family owned it. They didn't want to do, really anything to save the track. And it came up for sale. There was all kinds of jokes about it being, sold. And I think the old Crockett guys were like, you know what? We're going to lose our track days. And I'm like, you're going to lose it anyway, because this is going to get plowed over and it's going to get turned into whatever strip mall. And anyway, so last year, a large VC company, trying trying to find the name of it. They bought the whole track in partnership with Singer. So it's the
Well,
same, I think.
I think Singer is owned largely by a large VC company now too.
Yes.
So that's probably the same group of investors.
Exactly. And when you look at what they're doing, I mean, they have such a long runway because this is so expensive. I mean, the millions of dollars, this is just Streets of Willows. And if you'd been there before, it was sketchy. I mean, this, I can't show it to you, but the bottom of the screen, that was this little ramp that if you went off where the green stripes are, they weren't there, you would just launch into space and then crash. And then the infields were just treacherous. I can't imagine the tens of million dollars just to fix Streets of Willow. They put a world-class go-kart track, but what's really cool is they are building Willow Springs to be an FIA 2 level track, which means you're going to be, first of all, IMSA. There's going to be finally pro races right outside of Los Angeles. And I think for some, I think this is going to give Laguna Seca a run for the money. Across the track, I have insider knowledge. A friend of mine lives there at the track. They're building hotels across the street from the entrance because that was the other problem is you had to go to, Methy Lancaster to go get any kind of lodging. And then on the other side, you have Edwards Air Force Base. It's just this has been dying to happen, and it needed someone with a lot of money who's going to bring, in terms of the local guy who's going to go there on a Friday test and tune, probably not, but there will be track opportunities. And I'm wondering, are we going to get a Singer driving experience? I mean, it'll be expensive, but imagine to go in there and maybe you spend $1,000 for, a 2 session day to drive an actual Singer. So, but they are having a big event coming up, I think. If I don't go on the rally, I'm definitely going to try to figure out a way to go to this, but it's sort of their big opening day. And it'll be a who's who of everyone in the car world in Southern California, kind of our version of Lufka Cult. But
I'm sure
I'm excited about it.
And the thing that they made really clear, which I was happy to hear, was it's not just going to become yet another, closed country club type deal. And it's going to continue to essentially be what it's always been. That I thought was really special.
Yes. You nailed it, Tim, because that's the problem is that all of a sudden doors close. You got to buy a house. They're going to build properties.
Exactly.
None of that. It's going to be still a lot of people, manufacturers running the track and so forth, but there will be opportunities for just mere mortals to get on the track and drive. And it's going to be so much safer. I mean, I remember my friends would come out from the East Coast to do a club race with BMW Club with us. They were so afraid of Willow Springs, and it's really a stupid track. It's literally 9 freeway on-ramps with 2 big straightaways, but it is freaking fast. It is, I mean, in my Z3M coupe, you're averaging on this 3-mile track 105 miles an hour, which is a lot for just a regular street car. And I remember they would just come through just freaking out because if you went off the track, for sure your car was totaled. For sure. If you were not injured. I watched club racers go into the middle infield and literally shatter their back because they just disappeared into a ravine. I watched people center punch the wall between pit lane coming out of turn 9. I mean, it was a treacherous track. So the fact that it's going to be safer is going to be awesome.
Do you know if it's going to be an FIA track? Because
it'll be FIA 2.
Okay, so that means they're going to have Tech Pro barriers. That means they're going to have correct timing and scoring. That means they're going to have all the safety crap that basically a Formula One track would have.
Yeah, but here's the thing is like Laguna Seca is really our only pro track on the West Coast where you get like GP motorcycles and IMSA and stuff like that or NASCAR. And even that, or I guess you have
Sonoma
Sears
too,
Point.
right?
You have Sonoma, yeah. But those tracks, the infrastructure is so compact and it's hard. And Laguna Seca has noise issues. I'm sure Sonoma's coming right behind that. So this has tons of land. And I'm excited to see. I mean, imagine I can drive an hour outside of LA and watch a real IMSA race and not have to fly to Atlanta to go see it and see real pro level road races. I'm excited.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was the oldest, historic track in the United States. Where was it that James Dean was driving when he was killed? What track was it? Was it Willow?
He was going, no. He was on his way to Salinas, and that would have been an airport. Most of the tracks in the 50s were airport tracks. They were just runways that they would put hay bales on. This was built in 1953. So it's really funny. If you watch the old Herbie movies, they run it like backwards, forwards. They're just because they're just doing one corner. There's people on the inside of nine, which is freaking ballsy, with lawn chairs just watching the race go on. It's crazy.
That is crazy. Have you guys ever been to a professional rally before, like the types that they run through the woods and whatnot?
No, I'd
No, it
love
sounds
to.
awesome.
Yeah, well, except for the fact that you get to watch basically people that reach their hands out into this day and trying to touch the cars as they go by. Yeah,
Idiots.
in the United States, Julie and I went to one that was in the woods, and that's what we saw. And there was total idiots, and there was like the nearest EMS wasn't even, it was miles and miles away.
Natural selection.
Right there in front of you, right? You get to see it all play out. All right, well, I have another pop quiz question, and hopefully this one's going to hold you guys up a little bit more. Here we go. All right, when the Cayenne launched in 2002, purists screamed betrayal, yet saved Porsche. So what percentage of Porsches sold today are SUVs? I'm going to give you 3 or 4 choices. 30%, 50%. Paul, what are you doing with your fingers right now?
Did it?
70%, 90%. All right, what percent of Porsches sold in the United States are SUVs? Paul, go
Let me go
first.
for,
Yes.
70%.
What do you think, Casey?
I would agree.
It's 70%. Does that surprise either one of you guys?
No,
Nope.
not
Yeah.
at all. Because I think if you put in all the four door, which have been Taycans and Panameras, I'll bet you get close to 90%. I don't know,
Yeah.
is there a number for all four doors that Porsche sells?
I don't have it in my questions, but you guys are going to love the next pop quiz. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about limited editions or numbered cars.
Oh,
This
yeah.
this is something that I have always found to be an absolutely crazy topic because what is one man's limited edition is another man's. I'll pass on it because clearly the dealer couldn't sell it. To Casey's point that we're about to talk about. So my question is what is a true limited edition? What is the maximum production that we can all agree on? Absolutely say no more, make one more than this. It's just a production car.
Yeah.
Can we establish some rules for the automotive industry to follow right now? Casey, you go
Yes.
first. Casey, you go first.
Well, I think it's a moving I think it's a moving target, right? So the car behind me is something that released in 2011-ish, which I'd love to own one of these. It's a Boxster S Black Edition. So basically, it had Black Edition kind of embossed in the roof, and then had a bunch of piano black trim and had black wheels from the what was it, the Cayman R or the Boxster Spider from that era, a bunch of other stuff. But Porsche did black editions of 911s too.
Yep.
So basically, what I saw this car and a lot of their other cars in this era were build outs. They needed to get rid of chassis. They needed to get rid of parts that were on cars, and they were actually pretty decent values. I have no idea how many of each one of these cars that they made, but it was a limited edition car.
Well, let's
Um,
talk about numbers though. I mean, as far as like,
Yeah.
is there a maximum number of cars? Because what was it? I mean, just to reel us in here, because a lot of people talk about this. You guys know this, but like if
Yes.
you looked at a 997.2 4-liter, they made 600 of those, right?
Right.
Okay, can we benchmark that would be a genuinely limited edition car, or does it
Yes.
have to be fewer? Okay.
And then the 911R was 991, which I think was pushing the envelope.
I agree.
I think it's also based on manufacturer. So like a Porsche, I really think if Porsche is going to do a limited edition, it should be under 1,000, maybe under 750. If it's someone like, Lamborghini, who makes a lot less cars, well, who knows with the SUV now, but I think a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, it has to be way under 500, 350, 250, 100 or
We'll,
whatever.
we'll talk about Ferrari in a second. Casey, what the Carrera GT? I mean,
Mhm.
what's the history of that? Because wasn't that supposed to be somewhat of a
So,
limited car?
so they were supposed to, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were supposed to build 1,250 of them, I think was
I
the
thought it was
number.
supposed to be less, but I
But
know I know they way exceeded production.
they did, and they told people that they were going to build a smaller amount, and they built more. And I don't believe there was a class action lawsuit, but there was a whole bunch of really
Yes.
upset people.
Yeah.
So, and if you look at the way that car has fared over time, I mean, I remember getting offered those cars for 300 grand back in 2010, 2011, and I was like, "You're crazy! That's way too much money for that car." And now that's a really good, like that car. I remember we drove it in the snow for our Daytona launch party. I've got a picture of it in the snow, but that was harrowing. And it would shoot rooster tails out of the back of it like a Le Mans LMP car going down Mulsanne in the rain. But that car had 800 miles on it, 300 grand, and it didn't make any sense back then. Of course, hindsight's
Yep.
2020. But yeah, I would agree. I think a car absolutely needs to be sub 1,000 units to be, especially for a bigger manufacturer, because I think that limited editions are going to continue growing larger because they need to be able to justify the cost and the expense of making those parts for at least a manufacturer like Porsche.
Well,
Well,
and you
but
look
what,
at
but what's the break? I mean, I get what you guys are saying, but I think personally, 1,000 seems like way too many to me. I mean, that's just
well, especially with Porsche, because Porsche doesn't make like, here's a limited edition for all 997s. They make like so many limited editions. Like it seems like every year for one of their product lines, whether it's a Boxer, a Cayman, or a 911 or whatever. I mean, there's Cayenne limited editions. I mean, it gets to the point where who cares? It's like we laugh at the limited editions
well,
because they're
except the market's willing to pay all the money for something with a little numbered plaque on it.
not
And
always.
well, that's true. But that's the question. So where do you draw the line and what's limited as more people come out? This is the problem I think is going to happen with Porsche is exactly what you just said. And every other brother's going to have a numbered freaking car. It's going to completely, it's going to oversaturate whatever perception the market has as far as the limited edition. If I were in Porsche and I were in the dire straits financially and I was the new CEO, that's what I would do. Wouldn't you? How else are you going to make it? You need to make money now. That's what you're going to do.
I mean, it seems to work.
Totally.
Yeah.
It just does. And so if you look at like, for example, the ST, how many did they ended up making of those things?
1,963, the stupid
Yeah.
number. Ooh, the first time we built a 911.
Okay. I mean, and then
Yeah.
those, is that limited edition? They made, not 1948 of the Speedster. They made, all these things. So I will say it'll be interesting to see how the market reacts as more limited editions with even numbered cars comes to market to see if those things start to lose a little bit of their shine.
They
Well,
made they made 918 Porsche 918 Spiders, which I love. Like the mark, it's so cute, it's so stupid. But the reality is, they would have made 1,918 of those if they could have sold the 908. They barely could get rid of the 918 they made. I mean,
Yep.
they were doing everything to sell those cars.
They
And the
were.
fact that they were 900,000 new and they were selling them for like 100 off MSRP was hilarious.
So in terms of limited edition, I was out doing a run yesterday in a car, and a blue 911 was approaching me on the other side of Route 50, and I was like, "Oh, that looks good," because it looked like Maritime. But it went by, and it was a 60th Club Coupe, which is a really awesome car. I was lucky enough to sell one of them. They made 60 of them for the Porsche Club of America. They had ducktails on them, just a great looking car, specific color. But I remember, Tim, you probably listened to it, but on the PCA podcast a couple of months ago, Michael Tam was on, and Michael Tam's head of Two Doors production for Porsche Cars North America, where basically Vu and he were discussing the procurement of 70 cars for the 70th anniversary of Porsche Club of America. And of course, we've discussed this car before, but they had to plan this years in advance to figure out exactly what kind of car they were doing. So when it comes to these limited edition cars, especially things that are run through Sonderwunsch, like there is a limited amount of cars that they can do per year. And I thought that was really interesting, that how far these need to be planned in advance, because it's more than just a color and some stitching, those kind of things. They have to completely augment production. So that's the kind of thing where they have to do enough cars to make it make sense.
So if you want a predictor, and you guys argue with me about this as to whether or not something's going to be seen or really is a true limited edition or numbered cars, and we'll just use Porsche and pick on Porsche, it's if it was put together by the marketing department or the GT department. So if the GT department did it, then it's going to be something I think long-term will be special. If it was a marketing department type situation where it's fabrics and paints and stickers, even if it's numbered, I'm just question. Can you guys think of an example where I'm wrong about that? I think the one you just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, the one I just said.
Yeah,
I mean,
the one you just
a
said.
60th Club Coupe is a $200,000 car all day long.
Yep.
But also, like you mentioned with the
They
car
made
behind
50 of those, right?
60. They made
Okay.
60 of that one. They made one in Azuro, California. It was like 2005 or 2000. Yeah, it was a 996. Azuro, California over tan, I think.
Yeah, there was the 997.1, the '05 introduction had the Club Coupe. I remember the PCA Orange Coast region president got picked. It was a drawing to get to buy
Mhm.
the car at MSRP, which we're like, oh, good. You won a drawing to pay $100,000 for a car that you don't get to choose anything on. And we laugh at it now, but today to get the allocation, to get this special thing at MSRP actually does have a value. But I think from a customer standpoint, I look at the car behind you, the 996 Turbo S. They always seem like these special cars were just like liquidation sale, end of production line. What do we got a lot of? How do we get rid of it? I mean, and it's been happening for years. The Jubilee edition, I mean, that was leftover turbos that no one bought. No one bought the turbo body, and they had a bunch of all-wheel drive systems. And we'll talk about that car later. But for me, Porsche will never do it because they're in the business of making money, and I don't blame them for making as many cars as you could sell. But for going to companies like Ferrari that have notoriously just are about building something unique and special, and then maybe Ferrari's left that game, I want to see them do 200 cars. I want to see a Lotus who doesn't make as many cars do 50 cars. I mean, serious low production. But in the end of the day, those companies aren't here for us to sell a limited edition. They're there to make money. And if that doesn't make sense, which it can't in today's economy, then why would they?
So what non-limited edition or numbered cars hold value or increase in value despite how many are made? And I'm going to tie in something Jay Leno said. He said, Porsches are expensive even though they're not rare. I think that's a really fantastic quote. But can you guys think of I mean, we're all
Yeah.
getting into 911, right?
Well, so like the 991.2 GT3 Touring, which I thought this, when you really look at it, was pretty funny. Everyone screamed when the 991 GT3 came out in 2013, 14, because they didn't offer a manual. And the Germans, when I talked to my friends at Porsche, they were like, why would you want a manual? It's slower. Like you want a track car, you want fast. Why would you want a manual? It doesn't make sense. 911R comes out. There's a voracious appetite. And basically, Andy Pruninger, the 911R was really the reason was they knew they were going to put a manual in the car and they had to have a mass production to do it. So you could buy a wing car with a manual, or the Touring only came in manual. Now, what do you guys think the take rate was for the manual transmission? I'm looking at the numbers I had.
I mean, I sold,
Or for the Tourings. For the
Yeah.
991.2 Tourings, which were not limited edition, Porsche, it was a zero cost option. You just check the box for Touring, you get a manual.
I
wing.
will tell you, you had to get allocation for, I'm pretty sure in that era you had to get a specific, you know what, I might be wrong, Paul. I apologize.
Well,
I
how
think
many of
you're
those
right.
did they, how many of those did they
So
make
here's
total?
world production. I couldn't really get North America. World production, 991.2 GT3 Tourings. I'm not Tourings, just all 991.2 GT3s. They made 9,500 total cars for the world. Winged, Tourings, manual, whatever. Tourings, they made 600 for the world.
What?
That's it. And that's why when you go do a search, part of the reason why the prices are so high.
Hold on. Is you're saying that the total production, global production for a 991.2 Touring is 600?
Yes, and that's because the take rate was everyone screamed we want a manual, but when it came time for the guy who's going to put down these cars were 150 to 190
How many
MSRP.
911Rs did they make?
991.
991.
So you're telling me
They're more rare,
that is
but they
incredible.
weren't a
Casey,
limited. They weren't a limited edition.
I mean, Paul, I believe your research. To me, I sold 3 Tourings, 991.2 cars, one to a super good friend of mine, that literally picked it up in Germany and went straight to the Nürburgring. But it's hard for me to believe that that's the right number.
right,
But
one
I
of you
mean,
guys have to fire up Chat GPT so we can get to the bottom of that.
how
'cause
about
that
this? How
number's-
about why don't I call my buddy at Porsche and ask him?
phone a
Get a
friend?
real number. Yeah.
No, Paul's on it. Paul does not want to be proven wrong. Should I
I
put
mean,
it-
I couldn't. Here's the thing: is I couldn't believe the number, but I remember going back to 2019. We sold 2 Tourings, and when I was trying to price them out, and this is before the market took off, you would crack up. It was the first time in 20 years of doing this, buyers were calling me, not asking me what options were on the car. All they cared about was the MSRP. And I'm like, what the hell does the MSRP matter? They wanted, their whole justification was, What's the current sale price in relationship to the MSRP? Not what options, does it have sports seats, does it have buckets, whatever. And it was the first time I'm like, what is the people's obsession with MSRP? And then when I started to look around for cars for sale to comp it, it would be 100 winged cars and like two Tourings for sale. And I think we see more Tourings now because there's money, as we'll see later in the, when we talk about, this and that. There's just big money. And I think part of the number is because the take rate was so low. Now, what's funny is when you get to the modern car, like 992 GT3 Touring or GT3s and GT4s, the take rate on manuals is so high that there's almost no difference between the PDK cars in terms of resale value and the manuals because everyone bought a manual thinking, oh, it's going to be worth a lot. And now you just have it's almost like 50-50 production numbers. And in the end of the day, I think modern buyers want the PDK because guess what? You're instant rock star. You look like a rock star when you drive a PDK. That thing is such a great transmission. It's so fast. And if you get a manual, even with auto blip, you still kind of have to learn to drive. You're going to have to learn to shift, and you're going to be slower than your friend in the canyon on day one. So you don't want to be embarrassed. So anyway,
Well, we're talking limited editions, right? So I know that it's difficult when I worked for Porsche to get paint to sample cars. They had X amount of allocations for months. You could traditionally work the system a little bit to push out allocation. But I believe a lot of what that craze is now for paint to sample is almost creating your own limited edition car. Like you look at I put in the notes 992 turbo market. So if you have a 992 turbo and it's a paint to sample car, that's traditionally, even as a used car, over MSRP, as long as all of the things don't happen. So you're effectively creating something that's could have a number on it. I mean, there's certain people online that will list a vehicle for sale. This is one of 18 in this color. Like, I have no idea how they got that information. Porsche doesn't share that information. So unless you went and counted VINs or something like that, but it's interesting how people are almost creating this now. And perhaps that's why we're seeing such a drive for people that want that more exclusive thing, even though, if you just buy let's say a white ST, like that's got to be the rarest thing in the world, right? Because everybody got paint to sample or shore blue or black or one of these other colors. But if you really drill down, like it was kind of like our friend that we'll talk about later in a future podcast, you pick the standard color that might not have been picked that often, and that's almost more rare than a paint to sample offering. Sorry, a bit of a rant there.
That's a good rant though, because that means that things like Guards Red, which for a long time people were running away from, is going to become popular again because no one's choosing it anymore.
Now it's paint to sample to get Guards
Red is.
Yep.
It's not. Oh my gosh, what's
there's
this?
not.
I'm
I
going to
might
ask
be
you.
wrong. I don't think I am though.
I didn't have this in the outline, but I'm going to ask you guys this question. So, what is your favorite standard Porsche color right now? If you had to spec a car today, which is the color you're going for?
What is standard?
I don't know what they are. I'm sorry.
Not black and not white.
Listeners, this is what happens when they don't have the questions ahead of time. Just so
No.
they get sweaty and they get nervous.
I would say whatever the free. If there's a shade of green that's free or a shade of blue that's free.
There's a shade of green.
No metallics will be free. So I'd tell you probably GT Silver, which is probably an $800 option. So you got to give me that.
What's that?
That's a great color.
What's the green that I'm thinking of? It's a new color. It's a
Oak Green Neo.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's absolutely what I would choose.
I would probably choose the same or whatever the blue, whatever the free blue is. Anything that was unusual. Like I remember when Matt got the Frozen Berry, that was a free color or just a metallic upgrade or whatever it was.
How can you not do what can you do better than Oak Green Neo or Oak Green? That's such a do you guys remember the Goldie Hawn movie where she was dating the guy with the 911 turbo? You remember that? Wasn't it Oak Green as they're driving down that road, the tree-lined road? Do you remember that scene?
I'm just thinking of the movie Overboard. Overboard was a dope movie.
With the ship captain.
Yeah, Kurt Russell. Great movie. I don't know that one, Tim. I'm sorry.
And by the way, when we were talking about limited editions, I mean, the one thing I didn't get talked about was the Storado. I love this car. And if you want to know a car that will probably tank, I'll love it from the get-go, which means that car is going to tank because no one else loves it. When this came out, I was like, I would almost get this over Dakar. I would. And you look at these cars were like 350 MSRP, and now they're all in the high twos with no miles listed price. They're probably going a little bit lower. They didn't make, I forgot how many they made. They didn't make a whole lot of them. And I think
Because
they
they
would have
couldn't
made
sell
more
them.
because
They
they
couldn't.
couldn't sell them. But I
Yep.
mean, like one of my favorite scenes, and I couldn't find it, was Matt Farah was at Thunder Hill, and he's doing this lap, and you could see the drone footage, and there's this S's, and he just freaking cuts the S's through the dirt, onto the track, through the dirt. And I was like, to do that in a Lamborghini, like Porsche, you expect it, but Lamborghini is just so ostentatious to be able to do that. And I mean, they look cooler. They're not as garish which is weird to say for a Lamborghini, but like, how cool
Well,
is
it's
that?
first of all, it's a German car, so let's just call,
Oh, that's right.
it's
That's
German.
why
All
I
right, so
like it.
let's just put it out there.
It's Volkswagen Group.
It's a Volkswagen Group car. You put one up, that's what you see from stem to stern, Audi and Volkswagen symbols. But
Perfect.
that car, V10 motor, how the Dakar, if it was just product to product, that's so much cooler in my opinion. I agree
So
100%.
aren't the cars right now reselling for high twos?
Yeah,
Right.
high twos, low threes. But I think, Paul, the thing that you can look back at Porsche's history and see that they ran rallies in cars. I don't know a whole lot about Lamborghini's history, but to my knowledge, they did not run Miras in the Paris to Dakar rally.
They
I mean,
should
they
have.
might have run
Not even
LMO,
cool.
but they did. I mean, maybe an LMO02 or
But the
something like that.
LMO2, they built that, which is,
Yeah.
and but that's the thing is, I know, do you really think the car buyers are going, man, I am buying this because I'm buying into the heritage of all of what Porsche's done in off-road, which I think is amazing. And I love watching that stuff. But at the end of the day, the guy who bought the Dakar, to me, I think is 90% of them are just profiling. That's all it is. Like, look what I got, especially if you get the whole graphics package. I mean, I had a few clients that did tasteful orders. And as much as that car is cool, when was the last time? Well, you live on an island, Tim, so you wouldn't have. But when was the last time you saw a Storado on the street?
Why
Like,
would you
Never.
assume there's a Lamborghini dealer here in Puerto Rico?
okay, all right. So on your island, when was the last time you
Okay,
saw a
never. I've never
Storado?
seen one.
Yeah, I'm in Southern California, which if you're going to see one,
But so this we're circling around about the limited edition. So there's a
yeah,
non-numbered car which is weird, which is the last of its kind. The new replacement for that thing has I don't even know, twin turbocharged electric motor V8 thing. That's a cool car.
and the only problem I have with it is it's a Lamborghini, which is the Lambros and the whole thing. And so if I bought one of these, I would do everything to debadge it. I mean, I almost would want to put an Ultima decal on the back.
Yeah, Paul, that'll do it. That
You know who would
design.
drive? Dave would drive that car.
Totally.
100% Dave would drive
Totally.
that car.
Yeah, let's throw him under the bus.
Yeah,
He's not here.
he borrows some at Paul's Gold Chains, Tim's two-tone Rolex, it'd just be
I don't have a two-tone Rolex, but
sorry,
nice
single
try.
single gold Daytona. How about that? Yeah.
Perfect.
I would
Perfect
I
Dave
would get a
setup.
gold I would get a gold Daytona, but it would have to have a leather band just for or the rubber one. So yes, you guys are pretty good at calling my watch fantasies. That's true.
But Dave would borrow it though. That's the most important thing. He'd have to swap out that Seiko for that day.
All right, say Paul, next week it's pick on Casey. That's the show for next week. So make sure we
Perfect.
prepare ahead of time. All right, so segment number 5, where I think we're transitioning perfectly. So the Corvette is the Corvette the New McLaren. Now I thought of this because Matt Farah, and we're going to post it in show notes, did a really kick-ass video on driving what he called the touring version of the Z06. Hopefully you guys had time to watch that video. Thank you, sir.
I
And he
did.
loved it. And I've known a lot of other people, and I love what he said. I honestly, I mean, as far as car reviewers, Matt's one of my top 3 for sure. And he basically loved it. He loved the car. There's some idiosyncrasies that he discovered. And I was thinking, I don't think the market on a whole, or at least guys over maybe, 40, really see what Corvette's going to do to the marketplace. It is a GM product, but it's got its own brand. And this is just me, predicting what's going to happen. That car, the ZR1, the ZR1X, all these things, they're going to start coming out with hypercars based on the same. There you go. They're going to start coming out with hypercars that are variants of, just like McLaren does with everything basically being a version of the 720 at the end of the day. I bet you Corvette's going to do the same thing, and we're just getting started with that brand. So did you guys watch the video, and what do you think about my little mini rant?
Yeah, I watched the video, and and it's tough. I think Zach and Matt have always been a fan of the Corvette. And they've said it before, it democratized sports car ownership. What did they say? They modeled it after a Ferrari 458, or
They
was it a
literally
4?
bought a GM bought. I have a question before you answer, Paul. If GM totally rebranded this thing and gave it, and wasn't called a Corvette anymore, just for a second, would your mindset about the brand change? If it's a new brand, no longer Corvette, and Jennifer will actually be seen in one now, and not sneer at it. It's now
That-
called something amazing, an amazing name. No longer Corvette, but it's American made. Because I do notice, my friend, that when it comes to us talking about the Hennessy's and the other American sports cars as supercars, you don't seem to have such a hard line against the brand. So
I don't care for I would say the only American sports car that I find really interesting is what Mustang has done, starting with the GT350, the 350R, all the way to the GTD. I think those are really interesting cars. I've never experienced, well, I've sold a couple GT350, but I haven't driven them really in the mountains. It's just, test drive, and they're just typical, torque and power. I don't know. I find the Corvettes visually garish. And like I've always said, that the problem I've had with Corvettes is they're like sugar gum, like Wrigley's gum,
it's
where
no
you put in
longer a
your mouth.
Corvette. No longer a Corvette.
Oh, that would be.
I want you
Yes,
to.
I agree.
I want you to
I
think about
agree
it.
that part of the problem is just the badge, the name, the
So I
association.
have a theory. I
Yeah.
think you had your ass kicked in high school by somebody who had a Corvette. That had
There
to have
you go.
happened. There was some kind of abuse in your background.
No, and worse, my dad wanted a Corvette.
Oh
Like,
boy.
he really wanted a Corvette, and in the late 90s, American Express put on this test thing. They paid him to come drive a 996. It was like 99. 996 just came out, a Boxer, a Corvette would have been a C5 just came out, I think. Was it C5?
Yep.
And there's a few other sports cars the Mercedes offering. And here's the guy who he really wanted a Ferrari. He wanted a 275 GTB. He wanted a 550 Maranello. The only reason he wouldn't buy one is they wouldn't let him test drive one. So, but the Corvette to him was what it appealed to, was it democratized sports car. He could have something like a Ferrari on a fraction of the price without all the bullshit and all the other stuff. He went on this test drive through Malibu, and after driving it, and we grew up with Mercedes and German cars, he's like, I could never buy that car.
Yeah,
It's
but
just
that's a
built.
C5.
I
That
know, I
is,
know. And then he bought a 996 turbo, which, by the way, this was the guy who said to me my whole life, driving a 911 is just a glorified Beetle. That was my whole life impression of a Porsche. So yes, I grew up with someone who wanted Corvettes. My wife's total disdain for Corvettes is on the other end of the spectrum. I've been somewhere kind of in the middle. I will have to say, I don't visually like the look of the new one. From day one, I was probably one of the few people. I just thought I thought the C7 was a much prettier car. I actually like the C7 despite all the boomer jorts, New Balance,
all
all
right,
the
all
crap
right.
that
So
goes in.
Casey, what's your opinion? Is Corvette going to become the new McLaren? And you are totally going to get jorts for your or for Christmas, by the way, or Hanukkah. Go ahead, Casey.
So I will preface this by saying that my wife and I drove away from our wedding in a 1960 Corvette. Okay. So red, white sides, white interior, beautiful car. We had the car, it's a story for another time, but it was a part of our family for a long time. I had zero issues with Corvettes. We own Mustangs too. American cars are fine with me. When I see my experience with C8 Corvettes is when I was at the dealership, and then when I have some clients now that have procured them, they would go for way over MSRP initially. And basically what that caused was people buying these cars and then them absolutely losing their butts. And I then saw the same thing with McLaren. I saw people buying 675 LTs, 720s, 765s. And they were like, oh, I got it. The first one, I paid $50,000 over. I'm good. Now they're not worth much. And to me, especially like when those people they're like, oh yeah, I got this Z06 for 50 grand over, I know that that's coming. Like I saw that ZR1 that no sailed on Bring a Trailer for like 380 grand.
Casey, these Z06s are seriously depreciating. There's supposedly an enormous number of them that are sitting unsold on dealers' lots,
But
which is the point.
it's history continuing to repeat itself
But if
in
we
that
remove the
market.
value question, because that's not, I mean, the essence of the question is, I get what you're getting at. I mean, basically, McLaren did the same thing. But I'm going to suggest to you guys that Porsche, I think, will agree, is probably arguably, as far as big producers, the last holdout for where you can get away with, paying over for your car. I put on our Instagram, I don't know if you guys saw it. I have a broker that sends me the listings and he puts what his overages are. And you can still, for the most part, like to the question I asked previously about non-limited edition cars that are going to probably always be selling for substantially over, as if they were limited edition, GT3 RS. Did you see what those things are still? You can spec a new GT3 RS through this broker, but you got to pay 50 grand. I mean, that's pretty incredible. So, McLaren overproduced, and then there are also not enough dealerships to service the cars. So I'll suggest to you that one of the biggest reasons that brand depreciated like it did is because there weren't enough people to fix the cars. And I can go into that because, one of the service manager at one of the McLaren dealers in LA, what used to be one of my coaching clients. And I used to talk to him about the problems, and he couldn't get their shit fixed. They couldn't get the parts. They couldn't, with GM, that's not a problem. There's GM dealerships everywhere. So I'll just humbly suggest that all of us give Corvette in particular some breathing room, because I have a feeling they're about to jump the shark, as you said earlier, Paul, in a meaningful way in the marketplace. That's my perception.
Well, the good thing that I will point out about Corvette, the same as I pointed out about some of the other cars, is that it's causing the manufacturers that we really like to work harder
Yep.
to make cars that are great. And I will always continue. It's just like, I'm not a Tesla guy, but when Tesla came out, they forced all other electric car manufacturers to work harder to improve charging infrastructure and also to improve range of their vehicles. And I do believe that that is important. And McLaren is doing the same thing. It's just like when I was afraid when the Nissan R35 GTR came out against the 997 turbo back in the day. I was afraid. I was like, we're never going to sell a 997 turbo again because you can get this GTR thing for 75 grand. But if anything, it just made Porsche make the cars better. And that's something that I'm thankful for McLaren and Corvette for doing.
So I wonder, and I remember that too, that people were comparing to a 996 twin turbo. I wonder if the younger generations are looking at the new Corvette products at the same way that people that, grew up with the jorts and the, all the things that Paul likes to harp on. I wonder if the younger generation is going to see them the same way. I'll suggest that they're not. So that's all I have to say about that. All right. So moving on. All right. So
are we going to do what people think are going to go up in value and not?
Yeah, let's do that. You're right. I'm off the agenda. So let's go ahead and do it.
I mean, I'll be really quick. Every stupid 911 anniversary edition, which we brought up, and there they all are. If you want to see again, 75, 25th silver anniversary, they're celebrating. What do you think they're celebrating in 75? Any idea?
The end of World War II.
Jimmy Carter.
25th anniversary of being a sports car manufacturer, which is hilarious because that makes it 1950, but everything else of them shows 1948, 49. If you look back at history, Porsche always struggles. Were they making sports cars in 48? Would you call it 49 or 50? So you'll see anniversary dates that are actually wrong. So this one, boo, it was just silver with some weird interior. Then you get to the 89 silver anniversary edition. Oh, this is a silver anniversary edition. It's the 25th anniversary edition also. But wait, that was too. In 89, they're celebrating 25 years of making a 911, which goes back to 63, even though it was offered as a 64. The dates are crazy. And by the way, both of these cars, they were basically color stuff that you could actually order elsewhere to some degree with the ugly interiors. Okay, then we all love 964s. Who doesn't love a 964 wide body? This was the Jubilee edition, which was celebrating the 30th anniversary of the 911. Why? Because they couldn't sell cars, so they gotta. And these C4 bodies were leftover turbos that no one ordered. And here's the funny thing: is you could order this car in this amethyst color, or Casey probably knows the color. But you could
This
also
one?
order, yeah, you could also order it in like gray. If you didn't order it in this color, which was I think unique to the Jubilee edition, like it's literally a badge. It's the same exact car that we got. We didn't get this car in the US. It was not for North
My
America.
Touring was that color. My 992 Touring was that
What
color.
color was it? Amethyst or
Oh no, it wasn't amethyst. When I stopped trying
Viola
to
and
remember, I'll
purple
remember.
metallic.
What is it?
Well,
Viola
is
metallic.
it,
He just said it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it wasn't even that unique because guess what? You could order it on a different car and mechanically. Now, this was the first anniversary edition, the 40th in 2004 for the 996 was the first unique actual anniversary edition. I give the thumbs up because guess what? It wasn't just a unique, it was the introduction of GT Silver on a 911. You got these unique wheels, but as Casey knows, you actually got really unique mechanical parts. It was like an X51, but with some different stuff. And I still think to this day that I know it got GT3 manifold and a few other bits, but you don't see the 40th anniversary editions having grenaded motors like a lot of others. It doesn't have a Metzger motor, and I think there's more to that. But guess what? The market,
It's
only people who
45,
give it
45 grand all day long
all day
forever.
long, and the only people who care are the people who own them and run the registry. Then you get to this car, which now we're going back to, oh, it's just a GTS with colors, and you get gray, which is cool with the houndstooth, or you get like a white, or you get a black. And if you order a black one with black full leather, you got a GTS with a badge. Who the hell cares? And now they finally go to something that is actually unique. Now, here's the irony. This is technically internally called 60th anniversary. Do you hear anyone call this ST a 60th anniversary? But it is actually, when you look at the internal documents, it is the 60th anniversary. But the only reason it has value is because it is a special car. And I think Porsche realized if we call it another anniversary edition, it will matter less than the fact that we call it an ST. So in general, going through all of these stupid 911 anniversary editions, when you look back, when you look back over time, no one really cares. The only ones they care right now, ST, it's the new flavor. They don't care about this. They don't care that much about that. This one, I don't know if it's that much more than a regular C4, plus we couldn't get it in North America. They certainly don't care about that. These prices, maybe 20%, and it's really more of a, when you compare it to a good GTS with PTS, it's the same price. And
Well,
this
okay, in
is,
defense of that last one, that was slate gray, and the slate gray with the houndstooth interior was badass.
it was actually, was it Geyser
Graphite.
Gray or Geyser Gray was the white?
Geyser was the creamy white one. That one's
Yeah,
called graphite gray.
right,
I like that car a lot, Paul. I saw that car debut in Portugal, and
right.
I've got a special feeling for that car, especially that was the first time they put Pepita in interiors again. So I do think that there was something special about that.
It
But
wasn't Pepita. It was like it was houndstooth made out of seatbelt material because, and then what most people were doing who didn't order it, they would just take the inserts out and they go get put real Pepita, which looked actually way better. Yes, it had the cool early S green gauges, but my problem with the car, it was cool. But the thing was, it didn't get anything special. It wasn't like you got this special engine or you got like the 40th anniversary got a special engine. The ST's got lots of special bits. Those are the only two cars that mechanically got something unique versus just let's bundle a bunch of shit together, put a color that maybe you can't order right now, but you can tomorrow on it. Oh, and we'll put some interior pieces which you think are unique, but guess what? In 2 years, you can put it on anything.
All right,
So
so
that's my problem.
this is
there's
segment four.
Paul's rant for the day.
I know you can tell Paul's feeling a lot
Jeez.
better, by the way.
Mine's going to be real quick.
All right, so again, segment four. This is cars that won't go up in value that people think are collectible. And by Casey, are you sure you're right about that one being graphite gray, not slate gray?
100%.
He's right. Casey's right. They
All
couldn't.
right, good.
It's a
I'm glad
different
you
color.
saved. I'm glad you saved my ass. I was about to bet him $100. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll see you in 2 days. I can certainly cash in on that
Yeah,
$100.
exactly. So Paul saved me $100, losing $100. All right, Casey, cars. I really can't answer.
Anything made in
Just
England that
cars.
is made by an actual car manufacturer
You
is
mean
not going up in money.
anything made in England that's owned by a Chinese car manufacturer won't go up in value. Is what you're saying.
Divide by zero. You define the terms, but that's the answer. Unless it's something special, like a Gordon Murray or something like that. Anything coming out of, unfortunately, because the cars are awesome. I know Paul rocks one of them himself, but unfortunately, they're not going anywhere.
That car behind you, Casey, I'm interested in that car. I know you've driven that car. So for those that are listening, can you tell them what it is?
A McLaren Senna.
Okay. And so what is your honest opinion about that as if we weren't recording right now? Because I know you take care of a few of those. So what
It's
do you think of that?
insane. It's insane. It is the most extreme car, modern car that I have ever driven. I've driven short distances, but I've driven Veyrons. I mean, there are cars that, to me, to make a car special, it has to feel special within 10 feet. And if the car does not do something for me in 10 feet, I lose interest. That car, the McLaren Senna, from the seating position to the fact that you could look through the doors, to look through the ceiling, that you can barely put windows down, it is insane. I'd back to back that with a modern Ford GT, and they were both tremendous experiences. I think I preferred the GT only because it really felt like you were in a Le Mans, or you were in a car that was about to race a 24-hour race, where the McLaren did not feel as such. But the McLaren Senna is insane, but unless it's a extremely weird one-off example like the one that I look after, I don't believe it's going to go up in value.
What's the market on those right now? Do you know?
Mid ones for the world's coolest one. If it's a GTR like the one that our friend you and I have in common, those are significantly more expensive, but those are race car only.
So what are those? Where did those originally cost?
The one that I look after, I mean, it's exposed carbon fiber, which was like, I think, a $280,000 option, but it was probably around 1.2, if I recall.
Okay, so in essence, that's the essence of the question, and I agree with everything you said. I think that car is totally and completely manically cool, and from stem to stern. But I hear so many those cars are becoming hard to insure. Like I've heard, I don't know about Haggerty, but I heard some people with great driving records that the whole thing are having almost an impossible time unless it's one of 20 cars because the insurance company knows they'll never use it to get those things insured because they're all carbon fiber, the parts, all the things. So as far as cars that I don't think that I was, frankly, some of these I was expecting to go up in value, but never really have. The number one is that always has surprised me is an Alpha 8C. The Alpha 8C, especially in the coupe, is such a freaking gorgeous car. Yes, I get that it's just a Maserati underneath. It sounds amazing. It looks amazing. They made I think they made 350 of both the Spiders and the coupes, something like that. That's a limited edition car. They've always been flat. They've been 350 grand forever. And then I'll throw some other things. You mentioned the Ford GT. I think they made too many of those new Ford GTs. And the old Ford GTs are basically showing that they're going to surpass the new Ford GTs in value, I think. Do you guys have any opinions on that in particular?
Well, I think the old Ford GT was built under a different ethos. They were just like, hey, what can we do to revive just the idea of this, but make a road car? The problem with the new Ford GT was they had their sights on homologation, and they built a homologated race car that it kind of looks more like Senna and supercar, and it was like the flavor of the day when it came out at Cars and Coffee. And I don't know, racing wise, I don't think it did particularly great.
Won them all.
It did win them all. Okay.
Like 3 years in a row, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I wasn't sure. But anyway, I just think it's not a driver's car compared to the Ford. And also it's fairly new. It's in that weird period.
Hold on. The new one's not a driver's car. The old one's not a driver's car.
I think the old one's a driver's car. It's more of I've driven them. They drive outside of getting in and out of them and parking and just the weird door shit. They're really awesome. Yeah. Yeah. You get guillotined by it.
I hit myself in the head multiple times closing the door.
Yeah.
Isn't the obvious answer the manual transmission? I mean, the original car.
That's where I was going to go. I think it's all about sense of occasion and driver engagement.
100%.
And the old ones have ground clearance. They have some rubber on the side of the tires. You can't get tires for them anymore, which is ridiculous.
They look like the historic one. They really look like the historic one. The new ones don't look like the historic one. But here's the other thing is I noticed that when cars are somewhere between like 5 years old and 15 years old, they're kind of like when you get a dog as a puppy, it's cute. And when it's grown and adult, it looks nice, but it's in that weird, awkward adolescent age where the feet are too big, it hasn't filled in, it just looks dorky. And I think maybe we're that way with the new Ford GT. It's not the latest thing, it's not the coolest thing, it's not the fastest
It's
thing.
becoming something else. And the other one was basically an iteration of what was already proven to be
Right.
gorgeous. That makes
So
sense.
in 10, 15 years, who knows? I mean, I still think the new Acura NSX is a bargain, and it just got shit on by the automotive, journalist world. And I look at them, I'm like, man, those are great cars for the money.
It's because Acura stopped taking out ads in car magazines. Ooh, I said it. Sorry. All right.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, there's
What's
some
a car
that's
magazine
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
other than 000 and
Yeah,
Road and Track?
100%. Well,
And Road Rat.
exactly. And I'll throw this on too, since Paul's teeing me up. Anything that the baby boomers thought were cool are not going to go up in value for the most part, which breaks my heart, frankly. I love all of them, but we're seeing, and Casey, you had on Instagram, no, you had on WhatsApp a picture of two red 964 RSs. And I was interested because you said they drove different, even though they're the same car. But those things have been dead money, flat money for just, I don't even know how long, years and years and years. And so there's no reason, in my opinion, to believe that those cars are all of a sudden going to rediscover their audience to start going up in value. I think the exact opposite is true. They're going to actually possibly go down in value. Discuss.
Well, I think the unfortunate thing is a low mile RS America in the United States and a low mile Carrera RS are almost the same value.
Which makes no
And I,
sense.
and I don't need to go down that because I don't want to offend people. But so the two cars I had in the picture in our WhatsApp, I said it was the ultimate three-car solution, and Paul gave me crud about it because my Audi was in the middle and it was flanked by two Guards Red 964 RSs. One was a basic, which means that it's a normal one, so with the whoop-de-doo seats and that stuff, and the other one's a Club Sport. So they do drive very, very differently. The Club Sport or NGT is significantly more rowdy, but unfortunately, that era of RS just didn't hit it in the United States, and I
But
feel a lot of the money is dictated through our country.
are you in, or do you, I'm just curious about your opinion since you deal in these things for a long time and you have, and you will continue to. I'm curious, do you think that the baby boomer, poster cars are essentially dead money? Do you think they're going to find their audience again? Do you think long hood 911s, which I know you're not really into, but are those all of a sudden going to just be discovered again and people are 356s? Oh, their day in the sun is yet to come?
I believe special cars will continue to have exactly. So 73 RSs, even though they are trending slightly downward, every once in a while you see one really hit it. That's a really right car. Both of the 73 RSs that I look after are really right cars. So I do believe that those will stay there because that's an archetypal thing for a Porsche enthusiast, being somebody that's 25 years old or somebody that's 70 years old. I believe that will transcend generations. But yes, a lot of the other cars are flat.
I know you guys are not going to like this too, but this is just my opinion, right? So I think the transaxle Porsches are also going to suffer going forward because there's not enough people that know how to work on them. People buy them thinking it's a cheap car, and then they can't. The first service bill they get is going to shock them. That type of thing's going to
No,
happen.
the thing is, Tim, they never went up.
But
in reality, when you really,
yeah,
really look at it,
is that adjusted for inflation or real dollars though?
when you adjust for inflation, I don't think they really have changed. They've always been on the coattails of whatever a 911 is, the percentage wise. But like I remember Haggerty put out 2 years ago, the 968 was the one to watch, and like it went like did, and that
We're
was
still
it.
watching.
And it
And
was
so
like even the club sports, which I get clients all the time saying like, "Hey, I want a Transax car. Show you the club sport." And I'm like, "Why? Do you know what a club sport is? I would rather have like stuff that Casey had. I would rather have a 944 turbo that was a cup car. That's a more interesting car than the
So
club
next
sport."
week, because Paul, that one did close, which was a non-Rothmans car, which made it cheaper. The 38 Rothmans cars are worth a lot more. But next week, I believe you and I should argue 968 versus 944.
Yep, I bring it. But going back to your question, Tim, when we talked about old timer, young timer, I'm seeing it firsthand. If when you have a 356 or a long hood that is nothing special, sad to say, no one cares. The only ones that they care about are if like you see right now, 59, 57 to 59A coupes have value because you can go build either give it to Emery or go build something Emery, go get a Will Hoyt motor, whatever it is. Or when you talk about G bodies, mid years have value because you're going to take this sort of weird doggy thing and you're going to backdate it. You're going to do yet another stupid Singer Restomod, which has value. But outside of really special cars, you look at prices of 308s, unless it's something special, like a 288 GTO, but like, the 328s, the 308s, they went up in value. But when you really look at inflation and everything else, I don't think they went up that much in value. E-types have been really flat unless it's a special alloy body. So going across the board, anything that's 50 years old, I think, unless it's something special, like, even something more mundane, our 73 Aubergine car, we just took a deposit on that because it was unique and special. But I was telling someone who didn't understand the value, I'm like, if this was exactly the same condition, but it was light ivory with zero history, zero records, nothing, but exact same condition car, just a nice high level survivor driver, it would have been worth 40% less because the collector wouldn't be there. It would just be an enthusiast, and the enthusiast would go,
But
why
Paul,
would I
let me
buy
ask you a
that
question. So
versus
the
that?
so the dude that bought the aubergine car, which I think everyone will agree is stunning,
Awesome.
how old is he?
He's probably in his late 50s, early 60s.
Okay, and so you're making my point. I mean,
But
basically,
but I would say that the number of people, you're right. The number of people that were interested, ranged anywhere from early 40s to probably mid 60s. The early 40s definitely were all about it for the color. And the guys who were, when you got to the 50s and 60s, they were all about not just the color, but the history, the originality, the survivor part of it. But the irony is, right after yesterday, we got this car, this moss green car, which is nowhere near as nice as this car. But it's a cool, nice two-owner California driver. I mean, the number of people that are all over this, and what'll be really interesting is today we're getting an 81 SC Targa, black on black with 20,000 miles, that is arguably one of the top 5 air-cooled cars I've ever touched. I sold it a few years ago. It is perfect. I promise you, it will get a tenth of the reaction that this moss green car got and interest. It will be, and here's the funny thing is it won't be a lot more money. And it is technically a better car, but the collector is going to be like, well, 20,000 miles, but it's just an 81 SC black Targa. Who cares? So, yeah, going back, like what air cooled old that matters, it's got to be something really special. Like, and
let's actually
check all the boxes.
let's move to segment 6 because it's right in alignment with what we're talking about right now. So segment 6 is old timers versus young timers. So there's a huge disparity between young timer cars, 90s and newer, but more specifically 2000 and newer values climbing, while old timer classics, 70s and older, just static and soft. Some decent deals down there. What does your crystal ball tell you regarding the future values of pre-90s cars? And I want to make a note. We should try to avoid talking so much about values on the next Full Throttle Talk because it does kind of take, makes it less fun because you don't have to worry about the money while you're describing something that you have passion
Right.
for. But
Sure.
let's talk about this. So Casey, you go first. What do you think?
As I've alluded to before, and kind of how I talked earlier regarding driving simulators, I grew up in the era of playing, Rad Racer, playing Outrun, then moving to things like Gran Turismo and Forza and those sorts of things. And I believe the cars that are in that realm are going to continue to increase in value. I think cars that were also in movies from the era, Bad Boys, that was my introduction to Porsche. Those types of cars are going to continue to trend in the upward trajectory. And especially the later that the cars came out, the younger the people are, when those young people get money, those are going to be the cars that they chase after more so than maybe very early 90s cars, as we were discussing, 964s before. 964s are, I mean, probably the most expensive they've ever been, maybe on it coming down a little bit just because during COVID it was huge money for 964s. But I do believe that 2000s cars, which is one of my favorite eras, like I think 3.8 liter RSs are going to keep shooting up. I think 4 liters are going to keep going up. I think maybe, Paul, would you agree or disagree that 996s are going to continue to go up?
I think 996s will always be a relationship with the 997. It'll be the 914 of the modern world. They really want a 997.2.
It's the
And
mid-year. It's the mid-year.
it's
of
the
the G
mid-year,
body.
and when they end up as a 996 because it gets them in the door and it's all they can afford. But they would much rather, I mean, is there a cheaper 911 right now? Like 20 grand will buy you a 996. Is there any 911 ever built that you can buy it? There is. It's called 944 Turbo. And that's the answer. And the funny thing is, you look at the 944 Turbo, the people who are buying those are generally younger people who really want a vintage experience, and that's what they can afford.
Well, let me throw some. I put some facts in our notes. I just thought this was fascinating. So if you look at the amount of the wealth transfer that's going to be taking place from baby boomers to their millennial kids, it's something like on the order of 83, 84 trillion dollars, depending on what where you read the stats. And just that sheer amount of money flowing to these people that are essentially primarily going to be interested in cars that are, frankly, from 2000 forward, probably. That tells you where the market's going to go on anything that's older than that. So Paul and I are, you're a millennial, Casey, though you have a Generation X vibe, frankly. But I mean, Paul and I are Generation X. No one gives a crap about our little generation, and our generation's lived in the shadows of the baby boomers. But now everybody is going to be living in the shadows of the millennials for the next 20 years. Because if you can just follow the inheritance and all that money transferring, but also what their preferences are. So if you're placing bets on what's going to be the next hot car for, frankly, a long period of time, unfortunately, it's not what a lot of us have really come to love, except if you go to the extremes, the 997 GT3 RS or the GT3 RS 4-liter, or all these special cars. But the vast majority of these, I just feel like they're living in a bit of a bubble.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think and it goes back to what Casey said. Their poster cars are not poster cars like it was to you and me, Tim. Their poster cards are the video game
Yep.
cars, and that's what they're going to buy. And I mean, is this part of the reason why Roof is finally having its day? I mean, it goes back to Gran Turismo, where Porsche was so protective of their brand that the only way Gran Turismo could get a Porsche thing was Roof said, sure, you can have it. And so there's a whole generation of millennials that may know Roof more than they know Porsche, or think that Roof is Porsche, which is crazy, which is, I think, is possibly tied into why Roof's values have gone up. And
100% agree.
Yeah.
So here's a Casey pop quiz. Tim and Paul, you are given $1 million. You cannot buy a car that's modern. Not like, let's say, not in the last 5 years. What car would you buy? I need year and model.
250 short wheelbase from GTO Engineering.
I would buy a kind of reimagined Porsche 930 BTR from Roof, where they're rebuilding their old BTRs from the 80s.
Okay.
I don't think those are $1 million, though. I think those are double that.
No. They're like half of that. They're probably $500,000.
Really?
It's not like the seat. It's not the Yellowbird and stuff. Back in the 80s, they would make BTRs, these 930s that were basically Roof cars, and they weren't like flashy. They made a lot of them. And when I was there at Roof, I saw one, and it's basically a BTR from like 85, or, a German country origin. And they were taking it and refreshing it, basically restoring the whole car. The engine, I was talking to the engine guy because he had the engine in the dyno room. He's like, yeah, instead of 350 horsepower, we're going to be easily doing 550 with, EFI and all the modern tricks that they know. It's getting modern suspension. I think at the end of the day, those are under $1 million because they made for Roof, they made a fair amount of them.
Casey,
So
what is your answer?
so my question is 07 3RS. So my question leads back to this. Other than Tim, which your car would go You're making
No,
weird
no, I'm
faces,
thinking
Tim.
'07 GT3 RS for $1 million.
No, I mean, I don't need to spend $1 million. That's the
Oh, you
car I
said a
get.
million or
So
under. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
so Paul, when the 930 came out, how old were you?
I was
Sorry,
8.
when this ish
Oh,
version of the roof
I
BTR
was
came out.
14. Like the
Okay,
pinnacle
perfect.
influence.
No, no, no,
So
no. It
I
came out. It came out in '74, didn't it? In
No, no,
Europe.
no, no, not the
no, but
930.
the roof version of it.
They came out in the
Oh,
early 80s,
So
83, 84,
so
85.
you were mid-teens,
I
right?
was early teens, early teens.
Okay, so I would have been in my 20s. So Tim, yours is a little bit different because yours is a little bit esoteric, but the point I was trying to make is between 12 years old and 25 years old, like that's really what you gravitate towards.
that's
So
awesome. That's a really
when
good
those
point.
kids were born in 1995 or 2000, they're going to be dreaming of this GT3 RS, this thing that Dave's buying. So that car at some day is going to be a $700,000 car because they're going to want those values to keep going up because people, there are going to be wrecked ones, but the really, really good ones are going to be big money.
So to that point, I really do think that car, the modern GT3 RS, is more special than the ST. Set aside your manual transmission versus non-manual transmission. And I've seen videos where people are walking, put the cars up on the lift, and you see all the doodads that are underneath the RS, a mass production car, 5,500 or however many they're making, carbon fiber this, carbon fiber that. And people think those RS parts are on the ST, but they're not. The front sway bar is steel. The back sway bar is carbon fiber. So I'm really just, I think what you said is 100% right. But I have my own pop quiz. You guys ready? You'll like this one.
Mm.
All right. So pop quiz. Porsche has offered some very strange options. Which of these are real? A glove. Hold on. Okay. Number one. People are annoying. All right. Number one. Ready? Here we go. A glove box cooler for champagne. Number two, gold plated exhaust tips that were only offered as an option in the Middle East. Number three, a condom dispenser. Number four, rhino foreskin headliner. Okay, which of those is weird? Or which of those weird options is real? A glove box cooler for champagne, gold-plated exhaust tipped option, and this option is only available in the Middle East. Okay, a condom dispenser, or a rhino foreskin headliner. Paul, you go first.
Well, not the last two. I mean, for many reasons.
Well, no, no,
Boy.
no. For what reasons?
Well, one, I think the PR thing
Yeah,
of
killing endangered
rhinos
species
for
might
your
not be a good
headliner,
idea.
not a
Okay,
good idea.
that's
Um,
true.
uh,
Fact.
and I can't remember. Well, Rolls-Royce does coolers, but that's not part of Volkswagen Auto Group. That's Bentley. And I don't know if Bentley does it. Uh, I'm gonna go with I am gonna go with option one, maybe in the Cayenne or Panamera. I
So
don't know.
in Cayenne, I think in the first generation, there was an outlet that you could open or close that would put cool air into the glove box. So I think technically that could be a thing. But being that you said such a weird thing for a specific market, I'm sure that if people in the Middle East, like one of those crazy guys would throw a bunch of money at Porsche, I'm sure they'd do anything in gold.
So your choice was option B, and Paul's choice was what?
Option A, the champagne.
Okay, so Paul's right, and this was one of the ones that I thought of without using AI to help me write the ones, which I should have thought about the rhino foreskin thing. I should have made that a less endangered
Or
species.
condom dispenser. Oh,
Come on, I mean, there you
it was
don't know.
funny, but it was so obvious. Like, there's no way the Germans are not that funny. You know,
It's
Hey,
practical.
it's
You
just
don't.
money. It's special wishes. You just
yeah.
give them a ton of money and they'll figure it out. Probably not the rhino one though.
No, no,
All right,
no
I'll
matter
do
how
better.
much money.
I'll do better next time. Do you guys want to keep going?
Yeah,
Yeah, let's
sure.
do it. Let's do a quick this or that. I think if
Yep.
that's good with you
All right,
guys.
let's see.
Perfect.
Yes, Casey, you do. All right, so this or that. This is where the guys will pose what they found or they're following online auctions usually, and they're going to ask, you as a participant to choose this or that. All right, so Casey, your first this or that is a MGB.
Yeah, so I watched that TV show The Studio on Apple TV and absolutely loved it. In one of the episodes, Seth Rogen's character is driving a gorgeous
Yep.
sepia colored MGB. And ever since seeing that, I was like, golly, I think I could really deal with one of those. So I found the nicest, most expensive MGB that I could find on Bring a Trailer. It's the car behind me. It
Primrose
closed.
yellow.
It closed for 728, so not a couple of months ago. Beautiful car, very well restored, sold for 35 and change. I think it's a wonderful car with a tremendous sense of occasion. And then I thought to myself, Tim says I'm an old soul. I love that car. My first car was a Spitfire. I love British cars. But the one car I almost died in when I was a teenager was a Corrado. So this car is I can't find it, but it's an
SLC.
SLC. It was big money. It went for 33 grand. It's in green, and of course, green cars sell for more money. This car had 48,000 miles, stick, all the right stuff with Paul's favorite wheels. So at the end of the day, you're greeted with mid 30s for a car with tremendous sense of occasion or a Corrado SLC. Technically, the one I almost died in was a G60, so that's a different story. I would much rather have almost died in an SLC than a G60 because they sound a lot better.
I almost
But
died
that
in a Corrado also, Casey.
we have to tell those stories at some point. So that's the this or that. A beautiful MGB with wonderful sense of occasion. Um, I'll just tell you I'd pick the MGB, but have always loved Corrados and cars with VR6 motors. So that's that. So Tim, what would you pick?
Those are really tough choices because, like you guys, I love both of
Because you
them.
you own kind of both of them now.
I
That's
do own
also why
kind
I
of both.
picked that.
Yeah, that's very challenging. And that one's a VR6 too. The only thing that would scare me off of that Corrado is I bet it is impossible to find parts for it when it breaks. Interior trims, all that thing. And the MGB, you can buy a complete shell. You can put a small Rover V8 in that thing if you wanted to. Of course, they made the MGB GT. I choose that one for sure, the MG.
I choose the Corrado. Horrifying and wonderful memories when they first came out. The one wealthy kid at college, his dad got him a brand new one when they come out, 89, 90.
Thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just, I mean, I wanted a Scirocco so bad. And in my opinion, this was like the modern Scirocco. And that little spoiler that would come up in the rear, I mean, that's like pheromones to a car guy. It was so
Awesome.
beautiful,
So cool.
so pretty. Yep,
I'll
I'll
go
take the
next.
Corrado.
So this or that. Can you guys help me out with pictures since I put up the links? Can one of you guys move?
Uh,
There's
I know
one.
Paul's always fast.
I
Okay.
think I got
Yeah.
one of your cars because I was gonna pick that car.
So I know. So here's the thing. I was unbelievably shocked by this. Okay, so if you're just listening, here's what we're looking at. We're looking at a PTS 992.1 now, touring, and I don't remember what the yellow is called, but it's
It's
yellow.
like Bahama.
Yeah, I
Bahama
think-
yellow.
Okay,
Looks better on an old car than a new car.
if I remember correctly, it had sofas. It's not super crazy and all the rest of it, but it's a beautiful car. And then the other one was
Hold
a.
on.
Okay, here we go.
I got you. I got you right here.
All right, there you go. And that is what's the green called?
Birch.
Birch Green 991.2 GT3, obviously another touring. And let's just assume that they're both PTS cars. I don't know if that Bahama yellow car had carbon ceramics. There you go. But the price spread on these cars was astonishing. The older car sold for 315 grand and the newer car sold for 281,000. That's before bat fees. So is that the market? Is that just because, I don't know, the auctions?
Like we talked about earlier, production numbers.
Scarcity.
It wasn't limited edition, but they just made the take rate on Tourings was everyone screamed they want a manual. And when Porsche goes, here's your manual,
But
and
Paul,
this happens over and over.
Do you think the
take rate.
dude, I mean, you surprised me and Casey with the 600 if you're right about that, which you probably are. So do you think the dude that was betting on those knew the production numbers of the 991.2 GT3 Touring?
No, I think he may or may not know the production numbers. I just maybe know he may have known it subconsciously because he's been looking for a paint to sample one for a while. And by the way, think about it, paint to sample in 18 and 19 was just beginning to happen. Like in the 991.1, like in 15, I started to see paint to sample. And back then, by the way, paint to sample was 5 grand. 991.2, they moved paint to sample to like 10 or 12 grand. And that kind of got people going like, do I really want it that bad? So to get a Touring, which was already a low take rate, and paint to sample, I think that guy knew subconsciously low production because he was tired of looking. And that is why those paint to sample 991.2s are going to be
So,
future collect. Even Miami Blue, which was standard, is going to be collectible.
but look at this. So 315 grand for your 911 money. What are your options? You could have bought a same generation GT3 RS. There are a ton of things out there for that kind of money. And he chose that. I wonder if this might very well be the tipping point
This
of a
is,
huge market shift.
I would say these cars, 991.2 Speedsters. Got to remember, wasn't Casey, you might know better. Production was cut short because of COVID. This weren't,
No,
991.2 came out in 17.
Yeah, those were done before COVID.
But
Yep.
but like all of 991.2, you had set production year of 17,
Yeah,
18,
2020 was the
19.
beginning of it, so you started getting them in the fall of 19. So all the 991s would have been done by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thought is there was only 3 years of 991.2, which is turning out to be, as we get older, these are saw like 997.2, low production numbers. They turn out to be really great cars, drivers' cars that get hyped up by the journalists, and and the supply is so low, it takes just a little bit of demand to freak them out.
I've owned both, so I'll chime in here. If I had and I owned them at the same time, and between the two of them, the 991.2 Touring was the car I always liked driving more. There were so many first of all, the size of the two cars, I don't know dimensionally how much longer or wider, but the wheelbase, but if you look at them side by side, the new car looked like a whale, just huge car. I didn't like the rear wheel steer. I did like the way the car turned in. The way the car turned in was awesome. Of course, a lot of that had to do with the rear wheel steer. When I drove the 991, it just felt so much more alive and visceral. And oddly enough, I could never find a good seating position in the 992, and I easily found it in the 991. And I don't know if it was just me and my funky back or something else, and so from a will I buy another one perspective, which is a question you want to have on the next podcast, that would be what I regret selling and what I'd get again.
Yep. Yeah, and by the way, the friends I know who have 991.2 Tourings who have done the same exact thing, either had a good experience like in the mountains in a 992 Touring, yes, the double wishbone and all that. And they said at the end of the day, yes, maybe that car's faster on the track. It felt more aggressive and more of a track focused car, the 992 Touring, whereas the 991.2, they said felt more like the ethos of what a Touring should be. And leading into kind of what my whole thing was, I always struggled with the Touring. I was like, okay, and Casey, you might know more about this, but like, okay, they took the wing off. Like, did they redo the arrow on the bottom to compensate for the wing? Was there anything on a Touring
They did.
they
Yeah, there
did
was
on a
different. There was change.
991.2?
Yeah, there was changes in the front. Then also the degree at which the rear wing deploys on a Touring is significantly more dramatic than a normal C2.
Okay,
They certainly made it balanced for sure.
Yep.
Is it as balanced as a fixed wing car? Probably not. But yes, it's dramatically different.
So, Paul, here's a side business for you. Start buying those cars, the GT3s, which are selling far less. Spend the $5,000 and start converting them all to Tourings.
and I've seen them in the mountains, and you have to double take. And the sad thing is, going back to what Casey said, if there's really serious engineering to make the Tourings handle properly, now you take the wing off a wing car, are you actually causing some serious problems?
There was I had a guy. I mean, not this, but I had a guy that had a GT2 RS recently, a 19 or an 18, either way, but it had that rear wing delete on it. So they got rid of the rear wing and kind of put these carbon fiber things on the side of it. And I just thought to myself, I would hate to drive that thing at speed. Who knows what that thing is like? Because that was definitely not designed in a wind tunnel.
Who are the guys there? Like, I think Jerry Seinfeld took the wing off of his 991.2 GT2 RS, and I
Yeah.
think Canepa had it for sale. So,
Yep.
I mean, we're talking about possibly some problems in regards to high
Yeah,
speeds.
I've seen actually 996 GT3s at Cars and Coffee. I saw one where he made that into a Touring. And that's already a car that has dynamic, difficult handling issues.
No, people don't know that. That had no traction control, only had ABS.
Right. And I'm pretty sure that wing was very functional even at speeds under 100 miles an hour. But so going back, so this kind of leads into this or that with me. I had two cars. I had a 991.2 GT3 Touring and a wing car, both manuals, both similar miles. This gray one, let me pull up my numbers. This gray Touring 18 graphite gray.
Graphite. Well, that's graphite blue. Is it gray
No, it's
paint to
called
sample?
graphite gray, paint to sample,
Oh,
boring.
okay.
It had PCCBs, ceramic brakes, carbon buckets. It was $173,000 MSRP in 2018 with BAT fees. It sold for 282,500.
Yep.
282,500 for, you know, this carbon bucket touring manual. Then on the other hand, you had this 2018, same year. So, oh, by the way, that one had the graphite one had 11,000 miles. This one has 6,000 miles. It had an MSRP of 160. It did have ceramics. It sold on P Car Market both recently. This one sold with fees for $216,000. So with fees, you're talking about what, $65,000 difference. So you could get this, or you could go get this with a 968 Club Sport, or you could go get it with a really nice 944 Turbo S, or you can go get a nice Driver SC. I mean, you can go get
But you could
a
get an
996 Turbo.
well, what is you guys will have to tell me. What are the 991.2 GT3 RSs? What are those selling for now? I really don't know.
They're selling for
Mid twos.
three. I thought they were, oh yeah, maybe
I
high
think they're in
twos,
the
mid
twos.
twos.
Right. So if you had to choose, Paul, so which of those would you choose and why? And then if you had to choose between the winner of that choice and compare it to an RS of the same generation, what would you choose?
Well, I mean, this one I would choose the wing car because number one, I always thought this was stupid. I think this car is designed to have a wing. I think it works better. It's still a manual, and I'm going to save $70,000, $65,000. So I'll take that money and have. When you're behind the wheel, I'm sorry, same frickin' experience. Oh, wait, no, this one handles better. Ultimately, it handles better. So, am I going to be like the darling at Cars and Coffee? I mean, the irony is, I watch people at Cars and Coffee with Tourings. They'll walk right by and then they'll lean over and on the deck lid, they'll see the little square badge that says Touring. They'll go, "Oh, a Touring," Whereas I'll see them look into this car and they see the manual and they go, "Oh, a manual." I mean, this is the better car, better value in terms of a GT2 RS of the same era
Three.
or GT3 RS. I've driven those. These are already unrealistically fast for human consumption. That those are just to the point like how much fun am I going to have? I'm not going to the track with it. It's too valuable. I'll take this car all day long and pocket the money.
What do you think, Casey? If in the mid twos range, let's compare his touring choice for 282 versus an RS of the same generation, which I think are about the same price. What would you choose and why?
I'd save 50 grand and buy a 2016 GT3 RS. I think it's a better car.
You guys
He's
are
right. He's
It's
right.
it's a lot more belligerent, and if it's going to say RS on the back, it might as well scare you and make snappy noises. And the
Yep.
16s are a lot more aggressive than the 19s are.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. All right. So guys, let's wrap. We didn't break our old time record for a long podcast, but we can did you guys have any listener questions or anybody Instagram you guys directly that you want to address just out of respect for the time they took?
No, I had a number of people reach out and said they were coming to Luft, so it's good to hear that listeners are going to be making the trek. Guy from I think it was the Kansas City area, knows Dave. So he's coming out, and another listener from the Pittsburgh area is coming down too. It's going to be fun.
Let's get pocketfuls of Full Throttle Talk stickers so we can hand them out everywhere we go. Yeah,
You
we're gonna
got
be
it.
there. It's gonna be. You've been to a Luft before, Casey?
Air water,
Yeah, I
not a
haven't
Luft.
either.
Yeah.
I think it's from what I'm hearing, people talk about online, it's going to be freaking bonkers.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm excited about it. Anyway, so I'll see you there for sure. All
I'm
right,
envious. Take lots of pictures. I can't wait to hear about it next week, guys.
we
So
will.
in.
Well, maybe that might very well be the topic. We should do that just to keep. Any other questions that you had in? Anyone else you want to shout out?
No,
Okay,
Nope.
good. All right. So listeners, thank you for joining us today for today's Full Throttle Talk. If you have any questions, topics, suggestions, do message us over on Instagram. And remember, all these guys' contacts are down below. Full Throttle Talk started out as a bit of a passion project and has grown into something I don't think any of us really predicted. It's all because of your continued support. So do please subscribe to us on YouTube, or if you're on Instagram, give us a follow. In the meantime, thank you for listening or watching today's Full Throttle Talk. God bless you guys. Have a great week, and I'll see you in 2 days, Casey.
You got
All
it.
right.
See you guys. Thank you.
You guys.